welcome to the news update on AFRICUNIA television, reaching from our studio in the nation's commercial capital, Lagos, Nigeria. I am Deborah Ezeh. Many thanks for joining me. We begin from Nigeria. The amount of money stolen by late General Sani Abacha and his cronies, which have been repatriated to Nigeria by the United States, have hit over $334.7 million US. The U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Leonard, said on Tuesday. According to her, the U.S. government had been keenly aware of the devastating impact of corruption on societies, including eroding trust and the ability of government to deliver to their citizens. Leonard expressed these views during the signing of an agreement with the federal government for the repatriation of $23 million US being asset looted by Abacha and his cronies. While the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, senior advocate of Nigeria, signed the agreement on behalf of the Nigerian government, Leonard signed for the United States. Malami said since 2016, the Federal Ministry of Justice, United Kingdom National Crime Agency, and United States Department of Justice have been working closely with the legal representative of the federal government to finalize legislation related to the Abacha-linked assets. Following agreements between parties, the AGF said the UK High Court granted the NCA a registration and recovery order on July 24, 2021, which was sealed by the court on August 4, 2021. Mary Leonard promised that the United States will continue to do its part to facilitate the recovery and return of the proceeds of corruption to Nigerian people. And now moving on, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, yesterday lent support to the bill seeking the establishment of an Electoral Offences Commission to prosecute election offenders, saying the electoral process cannot be complete without such a commission. Chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, disclosed this in Abuja at a one-day public hearing on the bill for an act to establish National Electoral Offence Commission to provide for the legal framework for investigation and prosecution of electoral offences for the general improvement of the electoral process in Nigeria. Yakubu said the proposed law would enable the Commission clamp down on electoral crimes and ensure effective prosecution of electoral offenders, particularly high-profile politicians who sponsor thugs to carry out violence acts. The INEC chairman also sought amendment of Clause 44 of the bill, which empowers the Attorney General of the Federation to make rules and regulations with respect to the function or powers of the proposed commission. He said giving such powers to the AGF could conflict with the work of commission, as it should be independent. However, the EFCC chairman, Abdul Rashid Bawa, who was represented by Assistant Commander Deborah Ezeh, asserted that there was no need to create an agency solely for the purpose of prosecuting electoral offences, especially when the electoral process was seasonal in nature. Away from Nigeria, Burkina Faso and Niger, two countries affected by the jihadist violence that started in northern Mali in 2013, has called on Bamako to come back and assume its responsibilities as part of sub-regional cooperation in the fight against jihadism. In mid-May, Mali's transitional authority, prevented from assuming the presidency, decided to withdraw from the G5 Sahel and its joint force, a military alliance fighting jihadist groups, citing a loss of autonomy and instrumentalization within the regional organization formed with Mauritania, Chad, Burkina Faso and Niger. Mr. Indato, accompanied by his counterpart, the Burkina Defense Minister General Barthelemy Simpore, was speaking after a meeting with the president of the transition in Burkina Faso, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henri Santiago. Burkina Faso and its neighbor Niger have been facing regular and deadly jihadist attacks for several years, attributed to jihadist group affiliated with the Islamic State organization and Al-Qaeda. They have left thousands dead in both countries and hundreds of thousands displaced from their homes. Now, still on the African scene, the work of the inclusive national dialogue in Chad between the civilian and armed opposition and the ruling junta will begin on Wednesday, a day later than the initial schedule for organizational reason. The head of the junta, Mohamed Idris Deby Itno, in Njideme, the kick-off of this dialogue, boycotted by some armed groups and members of civil society, which should lead to free and democratic election and the transfer of power to civilians. The dialogue has been postponed for organizational reasons, notably because of the late arrival of certain delegation, but not for political reasons, said Abdulrahman Kaulamala, the government spokesman and communications minister appointed by the junta. Some 1,400 delegates from the trade union, political parties and ruling junta will meet for 21 days to discuss institutional reform and a new constitution, which will then be put to a referendum. The DNI, which was initially scheduled to take place in February before being postponed several times, opened less than 2 weeks after signing in Doha of an agreement between the Chadian junta and some 40 rebel groups. Work in commissions, which include social issues, peace and national reconciliation, and fundamental freedom, is due to begin on 30th August. We now go on a short break, and when we come back, it's updates making the rounds on the foreign scene. Stay with me. And now welcome back onto the foreign scene. Afghan refugees and migrants living in limbo at a United Emirates or Arab Emirates facility for nearly a year since being evacuated from Afghanistan held protests this week over what they say is a slow, opaque resettlement process. Hundreds of Afghans carried banners and shouted for freedom on Monday and Tuesday. Pictures and videos shared on social media show children, women, and men protesting inside the facility in Abu Dhabi, known as Emirates Humanitarian City, with temperature in the Gulf Arab states ranging 30 degrees Celsius. Men and children chanting, "We want justice," were seen in one video wearing white blindfolds inscribed with the word freedom. The men and some children had bound their wrists in an apparent gesture to what some Afghans said are prison-like conditions in the facility. A UAE official acknowledged there were frustrations and said that the Abu Dhabi was working with the US Embassy to resettle the Afghans in the United States or elsewhere. Moving on, Japan will waive pre-departure COVID-19 tests for vaccinated travelers to the country, but daily caps on entrance will remain in place, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said on Wednesday. The requirements for tests will be lifted from September 7th, and no decision has been made yet on a reported plan to raise a daily cap on inbound travelers from 20,000 to 50,000. Japan has maintained some of the strictest pandemic border measures among major economies, requiring travelers to present a negative coronavirus test taken within 72 hours of departure. Kishida said in May that he wanted to bring Japan's border measures more in line with those of other groups of 7 nations. Japan in June opened up to tourists for the first time in 2 years, while requirements that they apply for visas and stick to guided package tour have kept actual numbers of inbound visitors small. Still on the foreign scene, the US military said it carried out airstrikes on Tuesday in Syria Deir al-Zoar against facilities used by groups affiliated with Iran's elite Revolutionary Guards Corps. The strikes came even as the United States aimed to respond to a draft agreement proposed by the European Union that would bring back the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran that former President Donald Trump abandoned and current President Joe Biden has sought to revive. The Military Central Command said in a statement the surge strike were aimed at protecting U.S. forces from attack by Iran-backed groups. Central Command called the strikes a proportionate, deliberate action intended to limit the risks of escalation and minimize the risks of casualties. The statement about Tuesday's U.S. strike did not mention whether there were any casualties and did not say whether the airstrikes were carried out by manned or unmanned aircraft. We now head to the sports scene. Nigeria and Algeria are set to meet in a friendly encounter at the new stadium in Oran, Algeria on September 27th. The two African giants were at the last African Cup of Nations in Cameroon, as the Super Eagles also ended the tournament in disappointment as the team exited in the fourth knockout stage despite winning all their 3 group matches. Coach Ezeh Pesero's men will battle against an Algerian team that has won 4 or 5 games since that Afghan debacle, beating Uganda, Tanzania and Iran. Meanwhile, former Super Eagles vice-captain Eddie Ogeni Onazi is fully back in the Super Eagles B to overwhelm the Black Glasses of Ghana when both teams clash for sports at the 7th African Nation Championship coming up in Algeria early next year. And finally, Chelsea are a step closer to signing Barcelona striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, according to Sports. Chelsea have made a final offer to Barcelona for Aubameyang. The English club is now offering €20 million upfront for the striker and have taken the variables out of the proposal. Barca are looking at it favorably, but will continue to push for a little more. They hope to get €30 million for the player, but realized that Chelsea will not pay so much. Since the operation for Memphis with Juventus has been slow, the transfer of Aubameyang is the key to signing Jules Koundé. Approximately €80 million is needed to sign the defender, and the sale of the striker would fully guarantee it and also leave some money to spare. And that concludes the news update on AFRICUNIA television. Do follow all our social media platforms displaying on your screen to stay connected and updated to our news and other programs. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and also link us up on www.africunia.tv. Once again, I am Deborah Ezeh. Many thanks for watching.